Welcome to this Adult Education Literacy Content Standards Rollout post-webinar number 3. Today is March 1st, and I am your host moderator, Olga Escamilla. I wanted to make sure that everybody is connected to audio, and the instructions are here. You can go to Quick Start on menu in your WebEx Meeting Center in the hand corner of the computer screen and click on the tabs for directions to connecting to audio. Also, everyone, that our webinar best practices. We'd like for everybody to mute your phones at all times. You could type your questions in the chat pod and use your virtual hand if you have questions. And as a host and moderator, at the appropriate time, I'll stop and we'll take your questions. But remember to select everyone when you put your comments, questions in the chat pod. So when it says send to in your chat pod, you select everyone. So make sure that the participant and chat pod icons are open. These icons, they are blue. The color is blue up at the very top of your meeting center. So you'll see participants in blue and the chat pod in blue if they are open. Always minimize and maximize your screen options are also. So everyone in the chat pod, and you'll see the participant chat are blue. Everyone in the send to box. We're expanding your view for your webinar screen. You have your match with the plus and minus, and you also have your arrows, and that'll expand your screen so that you could see. So, does questions at this time? Okay, any questions? I'm going to go ahead and turn the present over to Miriam Thatcher.
Oh. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be back with you. I just have to tell you before we get started that we're having a big wind storm here in California, and it's great. We need the rain, but yesterday our electricity went out, and this is the kind of storm where a tree falls on a wire and the electricity goes out. So if I suddenly disappear, give me 5 minutes to get back in, because last time it came right back on and I could get right back in. So hopefully that won't happen and everything will be fine. Hopefully you won't be able to hear all the rain beating on my window behind me. So we have a lot to do today. Let me go on to doesn't look like much, does it? It's just 3 little things. But there's going to be a lot of thinking today and a lot of input from you. So just get your fingers ready, because you're going to be typing in that chat pod. Okay. So the thing we're going to do is just look back at the behavior checklist for mentors that we looked at before, and then also in the training a couple of weeks ago. Actually, a month ago now, isn't it? It's a month. Oh my gosh. So yesterday, and then we'll be talking. The main meat of this session is about analyzing student assignments. So that's what we'll really be focusing on today. But let's behavior checklist. This document, I think you have it in your handout. 3 categories, and this one being, I've got a typo that I didn't see, and I've gone over this so many times. Being an active listener. The second one is supporting teachers' growth and professional development, so supporting your coachees' professional development. And the third one is communicating effectively. So you were asked in the pre-webinar, I think, to go to online and fill out the checklist. Quite a few of you did that, not everybody. So they look familiar to you, the ones of you that did it. And I'm just going to give you a quick thumbnail of your results of that, because it was interesting for me. So this was the scale on the survey. Number 1 was, I'm not good at this. I need to work on it. Number 3 was I'm okay at this, but I could be better. And number 5 was I do this and I could help others learn to do this. So I could teach this. So it's from 1, need help, to 5, I'm an expert. So what I did was I got the results in a spreadsheet and I just marked 1s and 2s orange, 3s yellow, 4s are white, and 5s are blue. So this is what it looks like. This is just going to look like a big mess to you. You don't, obviously you can't read it and you don't need to really see what's going on in here. But if you just kind of blur your eyes and you look at the left, let's say 5 items on the left, you see more yellow and orange, right? And you just look at the 5 items on the right, you see more blue and white. And it's not like super predominant, but you can't see these little numbers down here at the bottom, but these are the average of scores 1 through 5, the average for each one. So these on the right, these 5 had the highest scores, and these ones on the left had the lowest scores. So that I'm going to look at is the 5 highest and the 5 lowest. So you can see down here at the bottom, orange was active listener, purple was support teacher growth, and green was communication. So you can see in the top 5, all categories are represented, and in the bottom 5, all categories are represented. In the top 5, which is the predominant category in the top 5? Just type that in the chat. Which do you think is the predominant category of these 3 categories at the bottom? Orange, purple, and green. Which one is the predominant one of them you feel the most comfortable with? At the right, on the right. 5 on the right. Okay, you guys are looking at the left. The 5 at the left, communication is the predominant one. The 5 on the right, orange is the predominant one. So I'm looking at these categories up here on going across the top. So you can see the 5 on the right, there's 3 oranges. The 5 on the left, there's 3 greens. I beat this up. I'm going to just say a few things about it. Okay, so thank you. Here's the highest rated items. The first one is, I'm open to feedback and willing to adapt as needed. So in general, all you coaches feel that you do well with, oh, there's another typo, oh my gosh, that you're open to feedback and you're adaptable. And of course, that's terrific, because what do you need more than being adaptable for teaching in adult education? Second one is, I recognize and honor different communication styles, and we're all about diversity, aren't we? So that's a really important quality for us to have, and it sounds like you feel very comfortable with that, which is great. The third one is, I listen with full attention and am able to read verbal and nonverbal cues. So as a group, we're really able to tune in to our students and, as by extension, our fellow teachers that we're coaching, and get us how they're feeling or how they're reacting to things, whether it's verbal or not verbal. And set high expectations for my teachers. Oh, the last one. I set high expectations for my teachers and recognize and build on their strengths. That's great. And the last one, I can articulate the art of teaching. That's great that you feel comfortable with that one. That actually was when I felt like I would rate myself low. So I was impressed that you all feel comfortable with that. So those are our strengths as a group. Now let's look at the ones where there was more, I could use some help with this. I'm okay at this, but I could use some help. There were very few of any of them that I can't do this and I need help. So that would too. Let's look at these. the first one is I probe for specificity, clarity, elaboration, and precision so that teachers learn to reflect on their practice and learn to better articulate their thinking and reasoning. So that's a communication goal, and that's one that we could uh, do some work on. And that kind of makes me think of the video that we looked at in February of the coaching the beginning teacher, and she was specific. She was very clear. She elaborated on what she was talking about, and she was very precise. So those are hard things to do. She made it look kind of easy, but it's hard, and you need practice to be able to do that. So it's not surprising to me that that's the one that people marked the most, that they would need some help with that. The next one was I established goals with my teachers for our partnership, and the one after that, I helped teachers establish goals for themselves. So both of the goal setting items, and those are from two different categories, were also ones where it seems like people weren't sure that they were really doing it of establishing goals with their teachers. So we talked a lot about that, and we can revisit that if we want to, if we choose to. And you'll have an opportunity at the end of, well, actually not today, but shortly when we email you a link to a survey, an interest survey, to indicate what you'd like to have more help with. Okay, so then the next one, I ask open-ended questions to elicit thinking and ask follow-up questions, clarify understanding, and to demonstrate genuine interest. Another communication one, and another very specific one about very specific behaviors that we do when we're coaching. And the last one, I check assumptions and find out whether my interpretations and perceptions are valid and accurate. So, well, first of all, let me ask you, does this make sense to you? Do you, looking at these 5 items, do you feel like these are ones that you could use some work on, or do you not identify with these at all? So just give me a note in the chat what you think about these. If this reflects you or not so much. You type in there yes or not so much. Maristry, thank you. So you identify with these. It's okay if you don't too, if you want to say not so much. But this makes sense to me because these are so specific. And it's been hard. I think we've had a hard time getting to really specifics with the teachers that we coach. So only if you are listening to me. Oh, there you go. There's a few more. Thank you. Okay, so let's go on with this and go into what we're going to talk about today, with student assignments. And I was really happy, actually, when I looked at the 5 things that we need to work on, because this actually fits perfectly with student assignments. These are all things that looking at student assignments is going to help you. Cordelia, thank you, and Kimberly, thanks. It's going to help you do these things. Assignments. Your reading assignment for this webinar, and we were going to have an anonymous poll where I asked you if you had done the reading or not, and that I could tell how I need to review or how much I can just assume that you know this. So it's not anonymous, but let's try to do it this way. There's no judgment here, but just really to help me tailor this to your needs. So I know that life is busy and everything doesn't get done all the time. So if you did the reading, type a 1. If you kind of skimmed it but you didn't really get into it, type a 2. And if you just didn't have time to get to it this week or this month, type a 3. Give you a minute to do that. 2, 3, 3, 3, 3. Okay, so let me just, okay, seeing a lot of 3s. Not looking at anyone's names, okay? I'm blind to that. But I got that info. Okay, so the read was about student assignments. And So there's a process that you go through with teachers that you're working with, and we're going to actually practice it today. So even if you didn't read it, um, Mary, it is posted in the COP. It's a COP. That's where you would have gotten it. The document is posted there, and you can get reading. It's pretty short. It's audio. Okay. So for those of you that did read it, did you get reactions just off the bat? Did the process make sense to you? And did it seem like something you could do? Okay, using audio. Aurora, it made sense. Sharon, audio. Okay, so just one person losing audio. Okay, good. Think about the analyzing student assignments. Does it seem like something you could do with in your current situation in your program, or did it seem like something that would be challenging? Pull off. It requires kind of regular meetings and maybe monthly meetings and with just you and one person, but it seems like it would be better to do it with a small group, maybe 3 or 4 teachers, 2 or 3 teachers and you. So I think that's something that you could do. Yes, we can do it. And yet it will be challenging. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's the reality. If you can do it, great. If you can't do it, it just gives you food for thought, thinking about what a process with the teachers that you are coaching. So listen to it. It would be difficult. And if you can't do it, I think the process, just going through the process, is going to help you think about how to coach teachers. I know it did for me, and I just found myself wishing, wow, if when I was teaching, this would have been a great process to go through. So these are the steps in analyzing student assignments. Step 1, introduce and determine the purpose of the assignment. And in the reading, it's talking to you as if you're an instructional leader or a coach leading a group of teachers through this process. So you may or may not be in that situation, but so you have to adapt it to your situation. The second step, analyze the demands of the assignment without looking at the standards. Just look at the assignment and say, okay, what do the students need to be able to do? What are the skills and concepts that they need? Step 3, then look at the standards and see where this assignment fits into the standards, or if it fits with a standard, if it's related to a particular standard or a bunch of different standards. Step 4, now we're going to look at the student work and say, okay, this was the assignment, here's the skills, it's teaching to this standard. How did they do? Did they get it or they didn't get it? And then based on that, do we need to redesign the assignment? Do we need to reteach in a different way? Did get it, and we need to ratchet up the assignment and make it more rigorous or move on to the next step? So that's the process, 5 steps. So for those of you who did the reading, here's a pop quiz. Why would you start with the assignment rather than the standard? Be able to answer this even if you didn't read it. Why do you think we would start with the assignment rather than starting with the standard and then looking at the assignment? You're looking at the validity of the assignment. Yes, separate from anything else. This is being led by the teacher that you're coaching. Oh, I should have said that. But so you're letting the teacher present their assignment. Yes, done this. So you're starting where they are. You're not starting where you want them to be. You're starting where they are. Now, I think I messed up and already answered the answer to question 2. Who should explain the purpose of the assignment? To explain who's present the assignment to the group. to Michelle, teacher, exactly. So the teacher that you're coaching is going to bring an assignment and say, okay, I did this assignment with my students. Here are their papers. Here's what the assignment was, and this is what my purpose was in teaching this. This is what I was going for. Okay, so that's the coachee is doing that because you're starting with them, where they are and what they're doing in their classroom. Last question, what should you do if the assignment is not aligned to the standards? Let's say a teaching assignment and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is so far left field. What do I do with this? What would you do? Yes, constructive feedback, yes. And specifically in the reading, it says if it's not related to a standard, then you're going to skip number 4. You're not going to spend a lot of time analyzing the work and then revising the assignment. You're going to go right to revising the assignment because they're teaching something that isn't really in the curriculum. You don't want to spend a lot of work improving it because that's not what they want to do anyway. That's not what you want them to do. Have the teacher reflect and see what's been done. Sorry, this is going fast for me. See what can be done. Yes, so you're working with the teacher. You're letting them figure out, okay, did my assignment relate to the standards or not? And if not, what should I do about that? So you're kind of going through this process with them. Ask them to find a standard. If they can't find one, ask how you could tweak it to relate to the standard. Angie, great. That's exactly right. So that's my little pop quiz. And then it's a visual representation of the same 5 steps that we just looked at. So introduce and determine the purpose, analyze the demands, and this is really unpacking just like we did with the standards themselves. Then go to the standards and see what standard it fits with, if any. Then look at the student work and just diagnose what they got and what they didn't get. And then make it to the assignment. Okay, that's the process. We're going to go through this a couple of different times today. Oh my, I've already burned through 22 minutes, so I better speed up. Okay, so his assignment, it's English Language Arts assignment, and I'll go through and find my notes so I can tell you all about this assignment. I want to thank Mike Hines from Cora Community Education in El Paso. I just nabbed him at the last training and asked him if he could send me some student work, and he was very to accommodate me in that. So this is an example. I asked him to send me examples actually of things, not perfect papers, but papers where students were struggling. So he did that. So this is no reflection on Mike and his teaching. This is to look at this process that we're looking at. He did this with some students without really explaining how to focus on the assignment, and then he did it again after explanation, and they did much better. So when you're working with a teacher also, you're not making any judgment about how it went or what they did or didn't do. You're just using this information to help you make things better. So this assignment was to read a 6-paragraph passage and answer 4 multiple-choice questions about summarizing the main idea and the relationship of one paragraph to another. And the whole overall lesson is about summarizing. So the purpose that the teacher presents, let's say a teacher, trying to help the students develop the skill of summarizing the text. It is a transition to college class. All of the students have professional degrees from other countries. Among them are teachers, a lawyer, an international relations person, software engineers, a nurse, and accountants, to name a few. So see that this is a fairly high-level class. Okay, so let's going to be Mike for the moment. So I've presented the assignment and the So I'm going to give you a minute to just read this is the first paragraph. I think, to yourself. Question 3, which is one of the questions that we're going to focus on. Which best summarizes the results of the study? And choices for which summarizes the results of the study. I was reading about the audio problems. So just let me know if I need to stop or do something different. So looking at this question, let's first of all analyze the demands of the assignment, just like we did with the standards. So it's going to look like this. What are the skills that the students need? So I'm going to go over here to the Word doc so you can see the paragraph and the question, and just type in the chat, what are the skills that the students need to be successful answering this question? What would you? Reading. Sue, thank you. Read, look at details and paraphrase results. They have to know what memorize means. Good point. Very good point. So going back to my slides, let's say this is what I said for the skills. You guys actually identified more skills than me. I just looked at one, summarize. But you're reading, retaining what they read, comprehension, and phrase summarize. Those are the skills. So I summarized all those skills into the word summarize. Okay, so this one is concepts. What concepts? So this summarize is the verb, right? The thing they have to do. What do they have to understand? What are the concepts they have to understand? And you already mentioned one was summarizing. Here I'm going to so you can look at both things. What are some of the concepts they need here to be able to summarize? Details, thank you. Okay, typing, I'm going to come back here and I'm just find the evidence, the passage, identify the main idea, vocabulary development. Yes, good. Okay, so this is what I said. You know, it's not written in stone, but sorry, they have to summarize information. And these pictures are actually the actual students that were working on this assignment that Mike sent me, which is so cool. So thank you, Mike. I love having that. Learn main idea versus details. Yes, good. That's exactly right. So summarizing information, and then there's a context. And in this case, this is just, it's a text, something that you're reading. So summarize information in text. So those are the demands of this assignment. Here's another one. Here, paragraph. Skip over this one because I think I'm taking too long with this. So there was another question was asked about the main idea of that paragraph, but we're going to just stick with question 3 for now. So we're going to skip that. So we have the skills and concepts that we're teaching in this assignment. Now, at this point, you're going to say to your teacher, okay, let's look at the standards and what standard you are addressing, or ask them, what standard were you addressing in this? Did you think about that? Do you already have an answer to that? So it's hard to do that in a webinar. We're not all sitting around a table with our copies of the standards in our hands. So here are three possible standards that could be related to this lesson. And just type A, B, or C in the chat to tell me which one you think is the best. And there's really no right or wrong answer in this. You're teaching to way more than one standard, and it would be a better lesson if you were teaching to more than one standard. So maybe it's all A, B, and C. But just pick what you think is the most relevant. B, B, B. Everybody's thinking B. A. Identify explicit and implicit textual information, including main ideas, supporting evidence. That fits, doesn't it? And B, draw and support inferences from text and summarize, draw conclusions. B sort of jumps out at you because it actually has the word summarize in it. So I like that one too. And evaluate the validity and reliability of sources. Okay, so we're not really doing that at this point. We're just trying to understand what they're saying. We haven't gotten to evaluating the reliability yet. So I agree with you all that said A and B, or A or B. I said B, but I agree that you're right. It's A and B. So assignment was related to a standard, and I know Mike working on this standard. He actually sent me this standard, so it gave me a place to start. So thank you, Mike, for that. Now we're going to look at how did they do. We know what assignment is. We know what the students need to know and do, and we know what standard we're addressing. So now we're to step 4, which is diagnose student work. So here's what it looks like. These are students. These are number wrong. So there were 4 items, and you see that the 2 items that I was focused on, ones that everybody had a hard time with. And excuse me, I flip my pages so I make sure I'm remembering to say everything I wanted to say about this. Okay, I'm going to look at item 3. It happened here. Most of the students that missed it, they put D of B. Said juvenile offenders thrown in with adult prisoners are likely to become career criminals. That's like the most striking piece of information in that paragraph, or maybe even in the whole article. But what's the question asking? Is asking for why do you think they might have missed this one? If you have thoughts about that. Some results of the study, not the paragraph. Results of study, exactly. So the results of the study were this. The results of the paragraph or of the article were D. So they just weren't reading the question carefully. Maybe it wasn't that they didn't know how to summarize. They just weren't focused. Oh, I did you. This is that one over here. I was going to let you look at the whole thing together so you could think about it, but I forgot to do that. But of course, you answered the question anyway. So what skills do they need to work on if that's the case? They understand everything in the article, but they just misinterpreted the question. What do they need to work on? And doing this, I'm trying to model for you what you would be doing with your teacher or with your group of teachers, walking through this process. You'd have more time than this, and it would be a little more personal and relaxed than this because you'll actually be sitting with them and you have time to go through this process. Here, oh, I see. I forget that I have to scroll down to see this. To look at the keywords to learn how to summarize deep reading the actual question. Yes. Connecting the question to the passage. Yes. Understanding the better question, checking the answer. Oh my gosh. I'm just sitting here and you're typing in all these answers. Thank you. Yes. So we want to focus on reading the question more carefully. So the result of our diagnosis of student work. So then we'll look at the assignment. We're going to maybe reach it or take a different assignment that's very similar and get them to really focus on the question, not what they're going to be asked, but what they actually are asked. So focusing on specifics. Actually, I think Mike told me that's exactly what he did with this assignment, and it worked. So this is just an example of looking through those 5 steps. You could so what a let's say they got everything right. What would be the next steps, do you think, after this, answering these questions about summarizing? What would you do next? Use a message, talk about sources and their validity. Right, then you could get into the next thing after summarizing was basically analyzing, looking at it critically, doing some critical thinking about this piece. Give them some practice with other passages. Yes. Talk about, okay. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. We can't forget that part. Add an activity, let them work on their own, dig higher level text, move forward with their syllabus, scope and sequence. Yes, basically turn the page, right? Go on to the next book. Yes, more practice. And if we go back to, let's see if I put this in the next slide. And so to teach that, you might model that for them and then do one together and then let them do one independently. Or not just have multiple choice questions, but just write a paragraph on their own without choosing from different answers. So a lot of possibilities what to do next. And this is the thing you would work on with your teacher. Or the standard that we were looking at, there are 3 other skills besides summarizing: drawing inferences, drawing conclusions, and distinguishing fact from opinion. And you've touched on a lot of these here. So that we would, that's a possibility that we could move on to those. Okay, so we walked through these 5 steps, right? We analyzed, we compared to the standards, we diagnosed, and then we ratcheted up the assignment, or redesigned or retaught if we needed to do that. Okay, so before I go on to the next example, any thoughts or any questions about that? Go ahead and type them in and I'll just keep going as you think of them. Okay, here's a math example. This is from Connie Marshall at Region 9. And actually, Connie, are you here? Connie, I spelled your name wrong too. Are here. So I thought it was ABE math, but I'm not positive. So if I'm wrong, could you Could you type in the chat what the course was? Audrey, 5 steps were clear and easy to follow. That's good. Thank you. That's the idea. To give you like a really solid process to follow. So Connie's assignment was a quiz. She taught about proportion, figuring out proportions. It's and ABE. Okay, thank you. And then she gave her students a quiz on that. And again, fabulous teacher, and she sent examples just like Mike did. One of the students that did it right after she taught it, and one of the students that missed that lesson and came the next day, and she gave them the quiz, which probably wasn't fair, but she did that for me so I could have some examples where students missed a lot of questions, which is what I needed for this webinar. So yeah, Connie, thank you. Okay, purpose, check students' ability to solve problems with proportion. So Connie, I'm just going to be you right now. And feel free to type in there if I mess anything up because I am not the math teacher. Okay, so here's the instructions on the quiz. There's 2 instructions. Set up a proportion for each. Use labels to make sure the numbers are placed correctly. And solve. So use labels, solve, and you can use a calculator. So here's the question. We're just going to focus again on question 3. 45 minutes of her workout. If this was 60% of her normal workout, how long does it take her to finish her normal workout? Round nearest minute. What do students need to know and to do? So we're going to start with skills. What do they have to be able to do? So just this one and type in the chat what you think the skills are. Well, here on this page so you can see the question. And type in what do you think the skills are. Oh, Kimber, that. Thank you. Okay. They have to know what a proportion is. They have to understand ratio and proportion. Use a calculator, Judy, right? So there are things here that they have to be able to do. They have to round up. They have to recognize a percent and how to work with it. That's true. So there's a lot of skills here. And you understand of time, set up ratios, set up proportion. Yes, so you got more than me. This is what I got. Set equation, label the pieces of it, solve it, and use the calculator. And you more than that, multiply, and I forget what else, but you had a lot more than that. Okay, so the concepts. What are the ideas they have to understand? And you already said some of these. You said they have to understand what a ratio is. They have to understand what rounding is. They understand proportions, ratio. Covered that in a way already, right? So understand proportions, and they have to understand what an unknown is because they're setting up an equation with an unknown. The context is word problems. I mean, in this case, the context was the gym, but the context is just real applications of the proportions, needing to use proportions. Okay, we have alignment. We know what it's requiring of our students. Now we're going to compare it to the standards and pick out 1 or 2 or possibly 3 standards that this assignment teaches to. So looking at these, again, A, B, C, what do you think? Which best fits what we're doing? Okay, an agreement about C. B, doesn't B fit? I mean, you are writing expressions and equations and solving problems, and you are multiplying and dividing, right? So it could fit with B, but it's probably C reflects the best what we're doing. And I agree with you. So the problem of not being related to any standard whatsoever. If we did, we would need to not the student work, but just go right to redesigning the assignment so that it does support the standards. Okay, we'll look at how did they do. So it's the number wrong. They did really good on question 1. They did pretty good on question 2. And this is not Connie grading these. This is me. So I'm Connie now, okay? Connie, I don't know what you we would have agreed or not. I gave them half point if they got like the right answer but the wrong label, or if they did that or wrong but they got the right answer. So you can question 4 wrong. Actually, everyone except Ashley got some part of it wrong. For question 3, which is what we're looking at, we had 6 people get it wrong and 1 person get it wrong. Okay, so we're going to stay with that. So that's enough people that we have to look at this and think, okay, what happened here and what do we need to do? And say this dark line here, these are the people that were in the class when it was taught, and at the bottom are the people that weren't in the class when it was taught. So you can see there's a big difference there, of course. Okay, question 7 out of 11 got it wrong. The answer key. Thank you very much, Connie, for that. So you see she's setting up the equation and she's labeling it. She finished 45 minutes and she did the whole, am I doing that? 60% of her workout. If she had her whole workout, which would be X, then that would be 100% of her workout. So she multiplied and divided by 60, and she got 75 minutes. Said she also accepted 30 minutes because you read this question to say how long does it take her to finish her normal workout. So it might mean not the total workout, but just the remaining portion of it would be 30 minutes. So I think 1 person did it that way, but most of the people understood that it meant what's the total number of minutes for the workout. Okay, answers. Just let's look at these answers. Think about what do you see here? What is going on here? Both at 27 minutes. What happened? Or actually, we don't know if they thought it was minutes or not. We don't know what they thought it was. We got 27 and some things, some unlabeled. What do you think was going on here? Brad, they didn't set up the problem exactly right, did they? But it's to tell what they were thinking, because why? So they were asked to label the numerators and the denominators, and they didn't do that. And that's important because in order to understand what went wrong, you have to know what they were thinking. But we're looking at these. Can you tell what went wrong? What do you think went wrong? I think well, I'm not going to say what I think. I'm going to show you some more examples. Here's the one. 40x equals 60 over 100. Is that right? But what happened? They labeled it. They didn't have an equal sign, and they got 27. This is another 27. They did that by multiplying 45 times 60 and dividing by 100 instead of multiplying 45 times 100 and dividing by 60. This person had the other 45 minutes and got 72 minutes, which is actually close, but it's not the right answer. But you have to know what they were, you have to be able to see what they were thinking in order to figure out. Did not cross multiply, that's right. They're just putting down numbers. They knew one went on top, unclear on why they were setting it up a certain way. or multiplied correctly. Could be that, but in most cases they multiplied correctly. They just set it up wrong. Here's one more, I think. Person didn't answer, but they put down any of the work, so we have no idea how did they get to 1 hour and 20 minutes. They got an extra 5 minutes in there somehow. Maybe they just looked at it and sort of thought in the ballpark, it's probably around an hour and 20 minutes. I'll just try that. Okay, we have no way to analyze what they were thinking here. Okay, you would be working with the teacher, sitting with Connie and saying, why did the students miss this question? What skills do they need to work on? How will you teach these skills? So we're kind of thinking it has to do with setting up the problem and showing their work and the process of cross multiplying. Then we're to analyze the student work, and we know what the issues are. So what are we going to do with that? Here's some ideas for moving forward. And really focus on showing their work so you can see that they're developing their thinking. They have to develop their thinking about multiplying. Some proportion questions require multiplication, and sometimes it's just addition. So they need to be showing their work so you know that they're thinking about it correctly. They need to label. They need to set it up with variables so they know what they're solving for. And even with using a calculator, you can use a calculator to do the actual calculation, but you still have to know how to set it up correctly, as we saw. And the other thing is, you got to use some common sense in estimating, right? So if you did 45 minutes, what's her whole time of her workout? It couldn't be less than 45 minutes. It's got to be more than 45 minutes because she only did 60%. So 27 actually just doesn't make sense if you just look at it, right? That process, I did a lot of talking. I'm just reading. Sometimes we assume that students already know how to do the steps, but if you walk through each step, then the light bulb comes on. That's right. Yeah, so they did a little more practice with walking through what the actual steps are. So I was talking, yes, more modeling, thank you. And you hopefully won't be doing this with your teachers. You will be asking the questions and they will be coming up with the answers. And I appreciate you all coming up with the answers in the chat. I'm spending a lot of time. You're probably getting tired of hearing me talk because I'm getting tired of hearing myself talk. It's hard to do this in a webinar, but thank you so much, Connie and Mike, for contributing your examples because it really gave us something to work with to model the process. That was really, really helpful. So to looking at what were the mentor behaviors that we wanted to work on. So if doing the process, it really gives you specific specificity, doesn't it? Like you're looking at a problem, a assignment, and you're looking at exactly what the students did and what the risks were and what to do about it. You're getting clarity, you're elaborating, and you're being very precise because you're looking at a particular problem and analyzing it. So I think the process will really help you if that's an area that you think you'd like to work on. As far as establishing goals together, this clearly sets a goal with a specific assignment. So it also addresses those two qualities. And then asking open-ended questions and eliciting thinking. I was trying to do that with you. It doesn't take much to elicit your thinking because you're all thinking all the time. And try to ask follow-up questions to clarify and to hopefully I demonstrated a genuine interest. And then making assumptions, like I might assume that we're trying to teach one thing and it's clear to you that it's not that, it's something else. So we had some, like you added quite a bit to my understanding of what are the skills and concepts that are required for each of these assignments. So can you think of doing the process, trying this process with somebody? Maybe you don't want to try it with a group time out. You want to try it with one person that you feel comfortable working with, and just work through it and it works for you. But I think it could be very fruitful if you can carve out the time and the ability to do this. The future. So this is the last webinar of the webinars that are associated with the face-to-face trainings. So really, we're really coming into the home stretch of this project. We have 3 more webinars, and I'm going to show you the dates to them in a minute, but I think you already have those if you have the handout from February 3rd. And these are really wrap-up webinars to support you in your process of ending that the teachers in your program are teaching less-based lessons. And thank you. Okay, more examples. Looking for perfect. I mean, come on, none of us are perfect. I mean, have you ever taught the perfect lesson? I suppose I had once or twice where I came out of a class feeling like, wow, that really went great. But I don't know if it was an everyday experience. Anyway, so we're going to send you a link to an interest survey. It didn't quite get done and posted by today, so I can't give you the link right now, but you're going to get an email about it, and it's also going to be posted in the community of practice. And I really, really encourage you to go there and answer the questions about what help you. I mean, we have 3 more hours to spend together, basically, 3 more 1-hour webinars in March, April, and May. And I would really like to be addressing the topics that are going to be the most helpful to you. So there'll be a list of like, here's all the things that we've done to revisit any of these. And then here's some other possibilities of things we could focus on. And then also, what are you doing in your program with implementing standards that's creative or innovative or just working well? It doesn't have to be like amazingly different from anybody else, but just something that's working well that you'd like to share. Would really like to have a couple of people share in each of these webinars what you're doing in your program so that people can ideas from each other, just like we've been doing in the face-to-face. So it'll be a place to put that also. And if you put that, if you don't put that, then it's going to be anonymous. But if you do put that, obviously we have to know how to contact you to set that up. And I'm really anxious for you to do that. And you can email me even without waiting for the interest survey, because the next webinar, the first one, is on March 21st, which is like less than 3 weeks away. So I'm anxious to get the people that are going to be presenting in that webinar set up. So let me know if you would like to do that. That would be fabulous. And for the follow-up webinars that we have, March, April, and May. And these are posted in the COP2, so you don't have to copy all these down right here. And I think that's all I have for today, and it's 11:59. So thank you so much. The week spring break.
Yes, the next webinar is the 21st, but a lot have a 1 week of spring break, which is probably the week prior. So technically they only have maybe 2 weeks.
Okay. I'm not assigning you to do this. Analyzing student assignments. I'm encouraging you, but it's not like you have to do it by the next webinar. I'm putting another tool in your toolbox. So good to see you again in a couple of weeks, and thank you so much.
Thank you, and please be sure to go to the Content Standards Rollout Forum for all the resources and the PowerPoint and everything that we covered in the past sessions and today. Right, Marion?
Right, and thank you. Everything that, all the slides from everything we've done, and I'm not post these slides till after Friday when I do this again tomorrow.
And the reading.
But there is posted there. I'll put the slides there on Friday afternoon. So you will have them if you want to do this with teachers.
Is there a slide with the webinar dates on it? Someone is looking for webinar dates. or did you just verbalize them?
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay.
Oh, thank you again for talking to me after
Thank
this
you all.
webinar. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.